This show is produced by the Hartman Media Company. For more information and links to all our great podcasts, visit hartmanmedia.com.
Welcome to the Young Wealth Show, where you'll truly learn how to make, spend, and invest money for an awesome life. Get the real-life stuff that wasn't part of your school curriculum. Young Wealth gives you innovative new ways of dealing with your finances, as well as the skills and tools you're going to need to survive and be successful out on your own. Let the Young Wealth Show be your GPS to take you from clueless to clued in. Here's your host, Jason Hartman, with Young Wealth.
Hey, it's my pleasure to welcome Steve Jones. He is CEO of Allied Universal. That is the largest security services company in North America. He's author of the new book, No Off Season, The Constant Pursuit of More. He's a former college football player, became an incredible CEO, built an incredible organization, and he's here to talk about how his career, if you will, in sports really translated into a phenomenal business success. Steve, welcome. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much for having me.
Good to have you. Where are you located?
I'm in Santa Ana, California.
Oh, fantastic. I used to live there many years ago. Things really do overlap, don't they, Steve? The things we learn growing up, the things people, the discipline they acquire in the military or in athletics, they translate into business, don't they?
Absolutely. Those are life lessons, and the life lessons that you get every day. You know, you can either form good habits or you can form bad habits, and I think some of the good habits that you form early on translate later on into your business career.
Yeah, they certainly do. You know, in the book, you've got a whole bunch of different things that you cover. There's no way we'll have time to cover all of these things, of course, on our short talk today. But take us through, you know, maybe a few of these lessons and a little bit of your story, you know, the injuries and, you know, maybe what you learned from those and then, you know, translate that into business, if you would.
Yeah, sure. I think the first part is just leveraging kind of my past experience with youth sports on having to, you know, work really, really hard to try to accomplish something as a team, having to learn how to function within a team. So I think, you know, the youth sports, that entire experience, whether you're a little kid or up throughout high school or throughout college, of having to, in many cases, you know, you're working for a boss. That boss might be your coach. You've got teammates, which would be your coworkers in business. And, you know, you've got goals that are set out, and you're learning each and every day, you know, what you have to do in order to achieve those goals, the work that you've got to put in. And I translate it in college, you know, if we wanted to run, or in high school, in football, if we wanted to run a play successfully, by the time we ran it in the game, we ran that play hundreds of times over the summer and in practice during the week. Hundreds of times, right? I mean, you'd run it over and over and over again. Matter of fact, you know, all you'd hear is a coach's whistle, and he'd say, "Do it again, run it again." And you know, I say to our salespeople all the time, you know, how often do we prepare and practice for our presentations for new customers? Right? This is our one opportunity. This is our Saturday night game or our Friday night game. You only get one shot at it. And how often do we do it again and again and again and again until we have it down perfect, and so we know how we're going to run it? So it's just little analogies like that. I think, you know, from an injury perspective, I unfortunately had to battle through a whole bunch of injuries throughout high school and throughout college. It still, you know, allowed me to achieve my dream of going off and playing college football. I did dream some pretty big dreams and aspirations of, you know, one day playing in the NFL, and unfortunately that didn't happen. But what I learned through each and every injury is no different than what you learn later on in life in business, right? In that, you know, you're going to set up a goal, or you're going to have goals, you're going to have a vision for your company or a strategic plan for your company, and you're going to hit roadblocks. And it's really how you deal with those, right? And so your ability as a business leader to be able to persevere and overcome obstacles that are thrown your way really is going to make or break your success of your organization, your success as a CEO. So, you know, again, I look back at my experience in youth sports and saying it would have been really easy for me many a times to say, you know, why me, and it's not fair, and or use it as an excuse, or, you know, you found a way to fight through it and to continue to make your dreams happen. And I think that really translates well into business.
It's interesting. You just made me think of it in a different way, because I'll tell you, Steve, the one thing that has maybe just shocked me more than anything in the business world is how sleazy some people are. I mean, they'll just take advantage of you without even a second thought or any bit of remorse, It just blows my mind. And, that's the same thing, I would guess, in athletics. I mean, look, the opposing player, the opposing team, they're out to get you. And, the same is kind of true in business, even though it sort of seems more civilized in a way. But people are really out to get you. And instead of, wallowing in, oh, it's not fair and this kind of stuff, just know that instead of an opposing team, you've got competitors. And, hey, they want to bring you down. That's exactly what they want to do.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the ball isn't always going to bounce your way.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny. I have 2 young children. I get a chance to go watch them play sports every weekend. And, one of them is a very highly competitive baseball player, and you watch the calls at the plate, and sometimes they're all over the place, right? And I tell them that every time, it's like, look, you can't control what the umpire is going to do. And to your point, sometimes it feels unfair. They're not calling balls and strikes, the way you think that they should be called. And you just got to persevere, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you can give up and quit, or you can figure out how you persevere and how you find a way to win. And to your point, if there's, whether it's dealing with all the challenges in business, you got a competitor that isn't acting responsibly. You've got former employees that aren't doing things the right way, maybe trying to compete against you in a wrong way. I mean, you've got to figure out a way to persevere through that, because that's just life, and it's just, as you said, it's just like business.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so in terms of comparing sports to business, I mean, it's sort of easy to say, hey, you got to persevere, you got to just keep going, no matter what roadblocks get in your way. What else?
I think,
yeah, right.
Yeah, I give this speech. I go up to I played football at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo. I go up there once a year and I speak to the team. And I tell them, I think this is the greatest internship you could possibly have. One, you've got to learn to function as a team. Mm-hmm. And so on the football field, that's 11 guys on one side of the ball, 11 guys on the other side of the ball. You got a whole other team behind you that you're practicing with. And if you can't function as a team player, you're not going to be able to be successful. And so in business, being able to function as a team is incredibly important, important. The planning processes that you go through. So just like in business where you go through strategic planning, you're figuring out what you're going to do specifically, what steps you're going to take specifically next year to accomplish, the strategies that you've laid out for your business. That's the same thing in sports. You've got 10, 11, 12 games, and each week you're determining what specific things you're going to do that you're going to have to execute on to be able to win and to be able to be successful. Talked about the perseverance, the determination. I think the ability to deal with winning and losing in business and in sports, being a good winner is one thing, but you also got to be able to deal with losses, right? And it's how you recover from those losses and the lessons that you learn and how you challenge yourself to be better. And I truly believe in business. Look, no one's going to have a perfect business career. I don't care how great they are. There's going to be a roadblock you're going to hit. There's going to be a down year. I've built an incredibly successful business. And look, there's been challenging years. Your ability to be able to handle that and to be able to make changes and figure out what you're going to do is incredible. The other thing is, this is probably the number one thing I tell our employees, and I think you learn this in sports, which is to put your ego in your pocket. And what I mean by that is the greatest player I can have on my team in business is someone who is a utility player that I could use them anywhere. They're there. They'll help the company out anywhere they go. And in sports, not everyone can be the starting quarterback, right? And so you've got to learn, if you're not the starting quarterback, you can either quit and not play, or you can be the backup quarterback. You can be the scout team quarterback. You can go play special teams. You can go play another position. There's other ways you can help the team. And I think that lesson translates so well into business because, not everyone's going to be the superstar. Not everyone's going to be the CEO. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's going to be the head of sales, but there's going to be other positions in the company. They're going to be so important for the success of the company. And if you can get people to put their egos in their pocket and to be a team player, now all of a sudden you've got a culture that's unstoppable.
Okay, so good points. So first of all, let's take the team one. Certainly every team has infighting, disagreements, resentments, all these kind of human things, envy, pride issues, all these, things that have been, with us since the beginning of time. How do you do that, though? What are the mechanics of that? Because when you're on the field of the football field or the field of business, right, the field of life, how do you put that aside? Do you fight it out and have that kind of cathartic experience, or do you just shelve it and then try and win the game? Like what are some of the techniques for keeping that team cohesive and dealing with those battles?
It's a great question. And it's funny, when I started Universal, we were a small little company. We were $12 million in revenues and 400 employees, and today we're $7.1 billion with 210,000 employees. And I incorporated the locker room. And so we used to get together once a month, and I'd get the key leadership team together once a month. We would close the door, and anything could be said. You couldn't attack anyone personally, but you could talk about, the performance or lack of performance or what you needed support or help on or what the challenges or what sort of bureaucracy was getting in the way. We still do that today quarterly. It's a significantly bigger team. It's probably the size of a football team now, locker room, because given the size and structure of our company. But it operates almost identical to a sports locker room. So the answer to your question is, in sports, those are the types of things that get worked out in the locker room, right? So when you come together and the coaches aren't there, it's your peers that you're working through those issues. If you leave those issues hanging and you don't address them, if someone's not performing or someone's not giving it their all, or someone's sick or they don't want to play, they don't want to be on the team anymore, they got a bad attitude, if you don't address those issues in the locker room, if you get out on the field and you wait to try to let them just handle themselves on the field, you end up losing. And it's the same thing in business. If you've got someone that doesn't want to be on the team, they're not 100% bought in, their heart's not into it, they're just not capable of doing the job. Maybe it's the Peter principle, right? We've been over
level of incompetence, right? Yeah, I love the
level
Peter
of
principle.
Yeah, in your locker room, if you're not talking about that and you're not addressing those things, again, in a very professional manner, again, not attacking people personally, but if you're not addressing those, then they'll spill over to the business world and you'll have failures.
Just out of curiosity, you mentioned the Peter principle, and I'm really glad you did, because it doesn't seem like anybody talks about that old Peter principle anymore nowadays. But how would you not attack someone personally, or at least have them not consider that an attack? You're in this meeting, right? Or you're in a huddle. Hey, you've reached your level of incompetence, right? How do you do that?
I'll tell you, I mean, I've had that speech many times with people where I say, look, I love you to death personally. You're giving it everything you got. But unfortunately, your skill sets to do this job, they're just not a perfect match anymore. This is my fault for putting you in a position where you can't succeed, and we need to put you in another position where you can be successful for the company. I've had this conversation numerous times with employees, and where we've had to move people around where, what might seem like a demotion. And I've been very fortunate, again, that I've had a team that for the most part has been able to keep their egos in check, and they want to be on the team and they want to be part of the success that we're going to have, and they've taken the hit kind of personally to their self-esteem, and they've ended up being incredibly successful going forward with us in just a different role, right? Doesn't mean they're a bad person, just means they're not the right person for that role.
Yeah, good point. Unfortunately, though, in a small business, sometimes you don't have another role.
A little more challenging in a small business. You're absolutely right. I mean,
definitely.
You got a dozen employees, you just may not have a spot for that person, right?
Yeah, and you just got to come to terms with that. Anything else you want to say or elaborate on? Maybe a question I didn't ask you.
The only other thing I'd say is, there's a lot of, I run into a lot of business leaders out there. Maybe they have what I call quote unquote soft goals, meaning goals that they're really not challenging themselves to hit. If you talk to any business leader, they'll all want to say, I want to grow my business. I want to be 50 million. I want to be 100 million. I want to be, 200 million. I hear it all the time in the different business groups that I'm in. They'll say, how did you grow your business? I said, well, let me ask you a question. You want to be 100 million. What exactly are you doing to make that happen, right? What are the exact strategies and the exact tactics that you've got laid out to achieve that goal? Because if not, it's just a dream. If you want those dreams to turn into reality, you've literally got to lay out the plan. And it goes back to, again, that high school sports analogy of you got to run those plays over and over and over again until you're sick of running them, until you can do them in your sleep. And that's how you're going to execute. And then that's how you're going to get to a 50, 100 million, 200 million, et cetera.
It's always been amazing to me that pilots, my cousin's a commercial airline pilot, right? Even with thousands of hours of flying experience, they're still using a checklist.
Absolutely.
They're still doing those basic things. They must think, okay, we fired up the jet engines, right? Let's go over the dumb little checklist, right? And I've only done this 3,000 times, right? But they got to have the discipline to just do those boring, basic things. And when you talk about how you have to run the same play over and over and over again, how do you deal with that? I think people believe that you do it to become great, but some people are probably asking, well, I just can't do that. It's too boring. I've got ADD. What do you do?
Yeah, it's the hardest part, right? That's the burnout factor.
Mm-hmm.
I talk to our team all the time. It's the grind. If you're going to be successful, you got to go through the grind. And if you're not willing to pay that price, it's going to be really hard to have sustained success for a long period of time. I mean, certainly you can have a good year here and there, but to your point, that pilot, that's a grind, right? Every year they're going back for more training. Every day they're doing the same thing. And again, one mistake, now all of a sudden, you're jeopardizing people's lives, right? And so it's a little different than business, but multiple mistakes in business means you're not hitting your plan, right? Or you're not going to have a good year. You're going to lose a customer, et cetera. So that doing it every day is the toughest part, right? It's getting people to buy into that daily grind.
It reminds me of one of my favorite Jim Rohn quotes. The weight of discipline is ounces, the weight of regret is tons. So if you want to be great and you want to do something great, you've just got to be willing to endure the boredom, the work, the relentless pursuit, right? It's just something you got to do, isn't it?
Totally agree. 100%.
Do you believe in the concept of the natural? Are there any people that, you maybe it's you, I don't think it is from what we've talked about, but, who get on the field and they're kind of a natural? Just kind of comes to them and they don't have to work very hard for it, Steve? Or does everybody have to work for it?
Absolutely. I see that all the time. I think if they're going to, again, to sustain success long term, the natural is going to have to put the effort in. That'll only get you so far, right? I mean, you see that, and then you see those individuals, they never are able to take it to the next level. I see it in business. There's a superstar salesperson that is going to have a good year here and there, but if you want to have a good year in and year out, you got to put in the effort and you got to go through the grind, right? It's the constant prospecting, it's the constant, building up your pipeline to make sure that you're going to have a successful month next month and the following month and the following month, versus just being the natural or someone that's had has got some good luck.
Yeah, luck comes in various parts of our lives, but most people don't. They don't kind of exploit the luck and turn it into anything long term. They get a lucky break, but it's just that. It's a lucky break and it's short term, and the real luck, if you will, goes to the person who's making the sacrifice, doesn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, good stuff.
Absolutely.
Steve, give out your website and tell people where they can find out more about you.
So the website's www.aus.com, and you can find out more about me and the book and the company on that website.
Fantastic. Steve Jones, thanks for joining us. The book is No Off Season, The Constant Pursuit of More. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for listening. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss any episodes. Be sure to check out the show's specific website and our general website, hartmanmedia.com, for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Remember that guest opinions are their own, and if you require specific legal or tax advice or advice in any other specialized area, please consult an appropriate professional. And we also very much appreciate you reviewing the show. Please go to iTunes or Stitcher Radio or whatever platform you're using and write a review for the show. We would very much appreciate that. And be sure to make it official and subscribe so you do not miss any episodes. We look forward to seeing you on the next episode.